Do I refer to it as soccer?
Yeah,
You
soccer's
or
great.
football?
Yeah,
Okay.
no, I'm
Okay.
I'm American born. I
Perfect.
call
I
it
mean, I know
soccer.
Major
Yeah.
League Soccer. My
Yeah.
son, actually, that's his goal, is to be in the MLS. So
Okay, great.
I got him in trouble last career day at school because he wouldn't dress up like all of everybody else. He's in athletic clothes. And I'm like, it's career day. He's like, I am dressed for what I want. I'm like, what do you want to be?
Man.
I'm going to be in the MLS, Mom. I'm like, oh, go you, yeah.
That's awesome.
ahead.
Good for him. How old is he?
He is 12, so
Okay.
that's his birthday present every year is to go up to the
To the
Timbers
game?
game.
Oh,
Mhm.
okay. Awesome.
Yeah.
Awesome. Yeah,
So-
we were. My son's 10.
Oh.
Yeah, so he's into soccer too.
Yeah,
And we were
yeah.
at the Timbers game on Saturday.
Oh, that's
It
so
was- it
cool.
was
I
a
bet
fun one.
that's so crazy for you to go back and watch.
Yeah, it's I'm far enough removed now
Yeah.
that it's like it's just fun to be
Yeah,
a fan. When I
that's
was
so
like
great.
just retired, it was
Yeah.
kind of weird. But
Yeah,
I was
yeah,
in
yeah.
broadcasting for the team, so it was like
Oh, okay.
not as
okay.
weird. But
Got
now
it.
it's definitely like I can
Yeah.
go, I can enjoy myself. Like
Yeah. Oh,
I'm
that's
not really
good.
thinking about it yet. It's
Good.
great. Yeah.
All right. Jesse, is it recording? Okay. Hi, this is Jordan Hill with Dirt to Sky Business Podcast. And I would like to thank Saltwater Wellness and Clutch Industries for sponsoring this episode. I am so excited to be here today with Nat Borchers. How are you?
I'm doing great. I'm doing great. So happy to be
Awesome.
on the podcast and
I'm
excited
so glad
to talk to
you're
you.
Here.
Yeah, thank you.
Yes. Well, I have known a lot about you. I know a lot of people who know you. And so, and I also have quite a few people excited to see what we talk about here today. So,
And I have to say, I've seen the podcast now,
Yeah.
and I was just saying how well you guys have done with the production value, and so many good guests you've had on, and so I'm
Yes.
honored and humbled to be here and excited to talk.
oh, awesome. Well, I would love to know just a little bit more about you. Did you grow up around here, your family, maybe your journey into where you are now? I know there's a little something called the MLS that,
Yeah, we can get into that.
Yeah.
So I grew up in a small town called Pueblo, Colorado. It's
Oh.
about 2 hours south of Denver.
okay.
And my parents were both teachers.
Mm-hmm.
And my dad was a director of an American language academy. So we had a lot of foreign exchange students coming through our house growing up. Yeah.
Okay.
So I had like a really kind of an international feel to our house sometimes. And I think that's why I got into the game of soccer, because it's a world sport. So I grew up there. Went to college at Denver University. Spent 4 years there. Got my accounting degree.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, and an interesting story about how my past diverged on accounting versus professional soccer.
Yeah.
But I was doing an internship with PricewaterhouseCoopers. This is like my senior year of college.
Yeah.
And I was hoping to get drafted in the MLS. And I'm sitting there like on that old school, if you remember, the old school computers that had like dial-up internet.
Oh, yeah.
Right, yeah,
Uh-huh.
so
Oh, yeah. I'm from that era.
You were from the era, good, yeah. High five that era. That's it was an era. I tell my kids all the time, like we didn't have these
Kids
things.
these days will never know.
They'll never get it. But I was watching the MLS draft 2003 and hoping I would get drafted. So there's 60 different picks. I think it was 6 rounds at the time, and so I was told that I'd have a good chance of going pro. So I'm like sitting there like just hitting the refresh button, while all the other accountants are in the room, like doing their auditing thing, and I'm like,
Oh, my gosh.
like refresh.
Wow, I can't imagine that moment.
Yeah, so it was just like I would hit the refresh button, it would just like slowly load, like that.
Yeah.
So I went through this, like it was like an hour, 2 hours of just this like madness, and I saw friends get picked, and guys I played against, and then get to the 59th pick, and I'm like, it's gotta be me. Scroll down, nope, it's not me, and I'm like, that's it. Like I'm not going to play professional soccer. Like I'm going to be an accountant the rest of my life, which is not a bad thing necessarily. But I was in pretty bad space.
Right.
So I got a phone call from the Colorado Rapids at the time, and the assistant coach was like, hey, we didn't draft you, but would you like to come out and try out? And I was like, I was kind of upset. I was thinking, well, you didn't draft me. Am I not good enough to be drafted? You drafted all these other guys. So I went and talked to my college coach at the time. His name is Chad. And I was like, Chad, I think I'm just going to like sit this one out, wait till the next year, see what happens. And he's like, you are an idiot. You should take your opportunity right now and take that tryout.
Yeah.
So I was like, okay. So I took it, and I showed up with this like huge chip on my shoulder. Like I had something to prove.
Yeah.
And every single training session I was like, look, it's either me or you, right?
Yeah.
For the other draft picks. And it was like a 2-week trial.
Wow.
And at the end of it, head coach sits me down and it's like, Nat, you know what? Like, we think you're good enough. We're going to offer you a contract.
Oh my gosh.
So that was my first contract in Major League Soccer.
Oh my gosh,
so it was
wow.
it was a really, really big moment. And I was not a player that had a ton of talent. I wasn't obviously from a Duke University or anything like that. So it was really big for me. And
Wow.
that was what got me into professional soccer.
Yeah. Now that's interesting. You say you didn't have a lot of talent, but here you are getting drafted into Major League Soccer.
Not getting drafted, yes.
Yeah. So what was it, and of course this translates into business, as we'll probably see as during this conversation, but you, it must have been a skill that you worked really hard to develop.
Yeah, I would say it goes back to my freshman year of college. My freshman year of high school. And I learned a really hard lesson about grit and about fitness. And so going into my freshman year, I'd spent the summer playing video games with my friends, not eating probably the best of foods, not sleeping, as much as I probably should as a, 8th grader going into my freshman year.
Yep.
Had no idea what I was getting myself into. The first day we have this running competition. And so we show up there. I'm like, I don't know, 5'0" at this point in time. There's a bunch of upperclassmen and, bigger guys who are there. And coach brings us all in. Is like, all right, you guys are going to go on a run. We'll see you here in about an hour.
Oh my gosh.
I was like, what?
Oh no.
so we proceed on this run. And I remember like halfway through, I was just like completely gassed.
Oh
right?
yeah.
And there was another freshman who was ahead of me who was like crushing it, and I was like, man, I'm not there. I did not put in the effort this summer.
Yep.
I was playing video games. I was eating junk food. Like I need to be in a better place. So we get to the end of it, and like my side's hurting, like my stomach's hurting. I'm like, I feel like I need to puke,
Yeah.
And I made up my mind at that moment. I was like, I will never, ever, ever, ever in the rest of my life show up unprepared.
Wow. Yeah.
And I think about that every time I'm, doing things in life, and I'm like, I need to make sure the preparation is there, right?
Yeah.
Because otherwise, it's like
Yep.
something is not going to happen that's going to be good.
Exactly. Yeah. Wow.
Yeah.
I think that is such a good lesson. I relate as well. Sometimes that like it's almost like a little check engine light comes on. You're like, oop, I better watch myself and make it so that doesn't happen again.
Yeah. And it's like I'm a very competitive individual, and to see the other freshmen crushing it, and me not being right there. So in terms of your question about talent, I was always the guy who would control what I could control. I didn't maybe have all the talent in the world, but I would always be the fittest guy there. I was always, be as strong as I possibly could. And then I would always make sure that I was as prepared as I could mentally for the game or for the training session or whatever it was. And that's what, got me, the time on the field, right? That's what got me the starts and the opportunities, because otherwise it wouldn't have been pretty.
Yeah. Now, how many years were you in the MLS? What teams were you on? You started in Colorado.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. 14 years. I played professionally, which is, it's such a long time.
That is a very long career.
Yeah. And I started in Colorado, went to Norway to play for 2 years.
No way.
Yeah.
Oh.
I because my parents had that kind of, I grew up in that kind of international household.
Yeah.
I'd always wanted to travel abroad, and they had actually believe it or not, met in Cairo, Egypt, when they were studying
Really?
abroad.
Oh
Yeah,
my
yeah.
gosh,
And I was
wow.
like,
It's
I
just
want
in your
to
genes to be
just to,
out.
to go, yeah, to travel. And, so I was like, you know what? I want to make this happen. And I never
Yeah.
got the chance to travel abroad and stay abroad when I was younger because I had soccer. And it kind of was one of those things where, maybe we would take some trips around the U.S. I think we had 1 or 2 trips in Europe, but you never get to enjoy it. You never got to
Yeah.
actually be a tourist.
Right,
So I
right.
was like, well, what if I live there?
Yeah.
What does that look like? So I took, it was a big risk to go over there, and I went on trial, and I was there for a week, and at the end of the trial, the club was like, yeah, we like you, we want you, and
Oh my gosh.
come on over. And I was like, whoa, I lived in Colorado almost my whole life,
Oh my
so it was
gosh.
like one of the biggest changes I ever had
Yeah.
to do that, and a great
Man.
experience for sure,
Uh-huh.
but a tough experience. Not knowing the language,
Yeah.
having to adjust to the time change. Not having your friends and family around. It was something I think every young person should try,
Yeah.
just to see what they're made of.
Right.
Because
Right.
there were times when I didn't think I was going to make it, and
my
I'm glad I
gosh.
stuck it out
Yeah.
because it's just such a valuable experience.
Wow.
So yeah, from Norway to Salt Lake City, and then at the end of the 2014 season, I got traded to the Portland Timbers, which is how I ended up here.
Uh-huh.
And now I've been an Oregonian for a decade,
Wow.
which is crazy to think.
Yeah. Oh my gosh.
I know.
And now did you have a family here?
I do.
Did you bring them with you or?
Yes. So my wife Crystal and I went to high school together.
Oh,
We didn't
wow.
date then, thank goodness. We were both kind of a train wreck back
Yeah,
then.
yeah.
But,
it all happened when it was supposed to.
yeah, exactly. But when I was actually back in an off season playing in Norway,
Yeah.
we reconnected, and so we've been together since 2007
Yeah.
or so, and we've
Aw.
got 2 kids.
Uh-huh.
We've got a 10-year-old boy named Lincoln, and an 8-year-old girl named Denley.
Oh.
So we're
Beautiful.
very blessed to have those kiddos running around,
Uh-huh.
and
Oh
we
my gosh.
we live in Lake Oswego, but I work my building is down here, and I work in Salem. So
Yes.
I've been down here for a while.
Yeah. Wow. Now, what was the journey like as you transitioned and retired from the MLS? And I know you did some broadcasting for them on your way out. And what was kind of the transition into starting your own business? And tell us about that.
Yeah, well, I got started in real estate early on.
Yeah.
And so if I go back to my rookie season, 2003, I wasn't making a lot of money. I think my annual salary that year was like $10,000 total.
Okay,
Right.
wow.
So it was like I was still going to school at the time.
Yeah.
So I was kind of like, well, I'm not making a lot of money, but I'm still going to school, so I'm kind of like a student who's still getting paid. But I was like, it's not a lot of money. I could have
Right.
made more as an accountant in my first year by 3 or 4 times,
Yeah.
but I didn't want to do that,
Gosh,
right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So it was really interesting because at that period of time, it was another bubble. It was like almost another 2019, 2020, what we just
Yeah.
experienced. And real estate was hot. There was a lot of demand for residential housing, and especially in Denver.
Right.
And the area that I was looking at was like it was a nice area by
Yeah.
Denver University.
Yeah.
So at the end of that year, I got this. I had actually become a starter on the team, and I had played 23 out of 30 games in the season,
Oh my gosh.
and started 23 out of 30. And why that's important, why I remember that number, is because I got a bonus of $5,000
Oh.
for starting in those games.
Uh-huh.
So I get this big check. For me, it was just a massive check at the
Yeah.
time, and I was like, "What do I do with this?" Right? And a lot of the guys on my team were like, buying cars and spending their money, and I was like, I want to buy something that is tangible. I want to have something like what do I buy? And I had a a friend whose mom was in real estate, and I'd grown up with him in Pueblo, and we were living together at the time, and he was like, "We should buy a house together."
Yeah.
I was like, "Really?" He's like, "Yeah." I'm like, okay. And he's like, "I got $5,000 too." Okay, well let's go in together on a house, and it doesn't sound like a lot of money, $10,000, but at the time, you could get a home loan for 5% down, and then you could get your financing 80% on a first, 15% on the second. You probably remember those days. Yeah. And so we went in together on this house. We found an estate sale.
Yeah.
And it looked like the 1950s had thrown up all over this thing.
Yep.
It was like, it was just the cobwebs and pink everything. And I remember the washing machine was in the kitchen.
Oh my gosh.
Because apparently they did that back in the 50s.
They didn't care.
No, yeah.
It's convenient.
Right, yeah. Just
It's all
I
in
guess
place.
you could do everything in there.
Yeah.
So we bought the house and together, and we fixed it up. Did all the painting and the drywall repairs.
Wow.
Did the flooring. We hired some of the electrical and plumbing stuff out, but like
Man, you
I
got
felt
rolled up your sleeves.
yeah, I mean, I was playing professional soccer too, so it was like I would come home from training and then just roll up my sleeves and just get into it.
Yeah.
But I
Oh my
fell in love with
gosh.
it. I just like absolutely fell in love with
Really?
the process of
Okay.
taking something that doesn't look good and is not well kept, and then like making it nicer, and then being able to have income
Yes.
generated from it. Right? It was like,
Yeah.
whoa, this is really cool.
Did you have like a parent or a mentor or someone in your life that gave you that long-term vision, or did you just kind of stumble into it in this situation?
It's a really good question. I had a guy who played on my team. His name was Mark Chung. He was a really, really smart guy.
Yeah.
And he was one of the guys on the team who was like, he could have afforded to buy the nice Porsche, but he decided instead to buy the Ford Focus because he wanted to, invest in real estate, right? So
Wow,
he was always
yeah.
like, hey, you should read this, like Rich Dad, Poor Dad,
Right.
You should read this. And so I was like, okay, like I kind of wanted to follow in his footsteps. So he was one of my first, I guess you'd call it mentors that kind of just gave me like a path to walk.
Yeah, that's so amazing.
Yeah.
I love that.
Yep.
So after that, you realized kind of the power of an investment, and also it's really great that you just figured it out for yourself. And did that. I mean, that's
yeah.
great.
No, I mean, it was,
Yeah.
I think a lot of it also was helpful that I had my buddy's mom who kind of got us in the front door and,
Right.
knew a little bit about real estate, at first.
Yeah.
But, it taught me a lot about partnerships too, like
Yeah.
how like powerful it is to like find somebody who has a shared vision and someone
Yeah.
who, you are aligned with to do things with, because in real estate, like that's like your
Yeah.
whole team is built off of that. Your investor base is built off of that. Just like a
Right.
shared vision, and so that was a good lesson for me.
Right. Yeah. So now and how long ago did you form Backline Real Estate?
So I started that in 2012.
Okay.
So
Oh,
this,
yeah,
it was a few years later. I'd played for, in Colorado, and then I moved to Norway.
Yeah.
I owned a house there. It wasn't rental property, but
Right.
I did
Yeah.
own property there,
Wow.
which was fun.
Yeah.
And then came back came back to the States to play in Salt Lake, and this was like a crazy time for real estate because I came back to Salt Lake in 2008. I bought a condo in 2008 for $260,000.
Okay.
This was like March. Very shortly after this, that condo was worth about $160,000.
Oh my god.
Yeah, and the meltdown, the global meltdown happened.
I bet everyone's
And it was
stomachs
like,
just sank.
my gosh, what is
Yeah.
happening? And I felt fortunate because I had a job that was like somewhat insulated from the Great Recession.
Yeah.
But, and I didn't realize it at the time that real estate prices just became so depressed.
Right.
So that's when I started Backline, and that's when I started to become a professional in the game.
Yep.
Because I hadn't before. It was just I'd bought a property.
Right.
I'd fixed it up with a friend. I didn't know what an LLC was. I didn't do any of that stuff.
Yeah.
So this is the point in time where I was like, I want to go for it, right? And I had more money. I was making, 6 figures now playing professional soccer.
Yeah.
And so
Yeah.
I had some disposable income.
Right. Yeah.
And the coolest thing I ever did, Jordan, was I got involved with a real estate investors association. And I would show up to these meetings and I would just like learn from these guys and girls who were killing it in real estate. They had like 90, 200 units.
Yeah.
And I would be like, I want to be like these guys. Like, how do I do it?
Right.
And so I was really quiet in the beginning of these meetings. I would show up and just kind of sit in the corner. And then I started, making some friends and asking some questions. And within, a year or so, I was, bumping elbows with some of these folks and like learning. And so, 2010, 11 hits and it's like we're really at the bottom. I don't know it at the time, but I was able to start buying property at just like, 30 cents on the dollar or 40 cents on the dollar, and learned about, some creative financing options that were really helpful to, minimize the amount of cash I was, putting out, but also maximizing the asset I was controlling. And that really was like a foundation for where I'm at now, because it was, the low part of the real estate cycle. And I had the money and I had the time to set it all up. And that's what, really got me, invested on the residential side.
Yeah, yeah. And I would imagine, correct me if I'm wrong, but kind of the idea where you had to have grit and build a skill instead of just coming out just knowing everything already or having the talent. Like it probably took you years to develop and to being in uncomfortable places and learning from people that were so far ahead of you. But it's not that you you developed a skill and then that's how you became successful.
Yeah, I think the hard part about that process and still today is checking your ego at the door and saying, look, I don't know everything. I'm not going to know everything. But if I come in here with an open mind and I ask the right questions, I'm going to learn something.
Yeah.
And, for me being a professional athlete at that point in time, and then, coming to these meetings and knowing nothing, knowing no one, it was intimidating.
Yeah.
It was really intimidating. But, I have always had the mentality of, sticking with it, making sure that like I'm going to follow the process, right? And the process for me was like, I wanted to have 100 doors, by the time I was 40 years old, and wanted to have $10,000 a month in income, like that was like the goal. So it was that's where I wanted to be. So I was like, I'm not going to stop, and regardless of what hurdles I had, I was going to keep going.
Yeah, that is. Did you hit those goals?
I did.
Oh my gosh,
but thank you.
Risky question.
Yeah,
I had a feeling you did, though.
Yeah. Well, and the funny thing is, it's like I got there, but then it's like for me, I wanted more.
Yeah.
And I also realized that in real estate, like you may have $10,000 this month. Next month you may have nothing because you had to repair a roof. Yeah. Right. You had to. There's something came up. Right. So like. That income you're relying upon isn't always there. Yeah. So, the hard lesson about that is like it's not necessarily stable. So you have to figure out other ways to make sure that you're staying on top of it and you're managing expenses and you're preparing for these big things that can come up.
Right.
There's always something that comes up in this game. There's always something.
Yeah, exactly. It's kind of the same idea of the other players that were spending their money on cars versus the player that was somebody that mentored you that spent his money on something lasting in an investment. So kind of the same idea, whereas it's like the long term, the big picture.
It is.
So.
It is. And for me, I realized also in achieving a goal that like that was the first mountain. I was like, there's a second mountain now that I want to climb, and it's in commercial real estate. Yeah. And there's so much to learn in this space and so much to do. And I realized, the things that gets me up in the morning are my team, like, and the people I work with. And I was like, I wasn't just going to, sit on the sidelines, and do nothing. I wanted to be part. I wanted to play a role and be valuable. And so I was like, this. I'm all in on this thing. This is fun.
I love that.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so you mentioned you love your team that you have,
Mhm.
what roles are on your team, and how did you find them? Like, even if you just have advice for someone that's starting to build their team and learning how to find those people that
Yeah.
that they wake up and serve the same purpose and are passionate about it instead of just I just
I
made
know
a
that
wrong
look.
choice
Yeah.
here.
I know that look. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's a really good question. So for me, it was I had to be in that role in order to hire for that role. So for my operations manager, Jamie, I had to be the property manager for 3 months. And I call her my operations manager because she's
Yeah.
more than just a property manager.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I had to sit in that role and learn it and figure out what it entailed to then hire for it.
Yeah.
Because I couldn't have put out anything on Indeed.com without understanding the responsibilities. So once I did that, and it was really hard to be in that role. I was working a lot more than I wanted to,
Yeah.
and doing things that weren't necessarily my best skill set.
Right.
But it made me learn what needed to be hired for,
Yeah.
with the kind of personality, the kind of attitude I wanted,
Right.
the kind of customer service facing type of attitude, and it is a skill set. And so after that, I was like, okay, I have it, and I'm ready to go.
Yeah.
And very similar as well with Michaela, who is our space coordinator for our event space. Just finding somebody who has a skill set that fits for an event space, which is different from operations manager.
Yeah.
And we also have an on-site maintenance manager named Kevin, who does all of our maintenance, and he's in his 60s. Kevin,
Yeah.
he's a different generation than we are, but he can like fix anything.
Yeah.
And he's got a great attitude.
Yeah.
He's just a good guy to work with.
Yep.
And when I get up in the morning, I'm like, I'm serving these guys. I'm making sure that they have everything they need to perform. And most of the time I can just step out of the way and do my thing.
Yeah. Exactly.
Yep.
Oh, that's amazing. They
Yeah.
sound great.
Yeah, I'm really
Kevin sounds
really
pretty
fortunate.
awesome.
Yeah, he's a great guy. Yeah, he's a
Yeah.
great guy. Different generation for sure.
Yeah, yeah. So, and not everyone listening will be from Salem, but your building can be looked up online pretty easily. But you have an amazing building that you own, one of them.
Thank you.
Called the 45th Parallel. Was that your idea from conception, or was it already built when you purchased it? It's such a different... it's just not your average commercial building, I'm just going to say. So.
No, and yeah, thank you for saying that,
Yeah, it's
because
amazing.
I didn't know what I was getting myself into when I bought that building. I had a relationship with AJ Nash, who was the listing broker, and he was whispering in my ear about the possibility of buying this, and this is back in 2020, end of 2021.
Okay.
Right. So
Yeah.
COVID's been happening. The owner of 45th Parallel went through a lot with that process. I went through a lot with my apartment buildings at the time.
Okay.
I had gone from Salt Lake to Portland, and then I had found Salem as a market.
Yep.
Very fortunate. It's actually through AJ indirectly.
Oh, wow.
Through our soccer connections, who connected me with James Haig at Legacy Real Estate. Yeah, and so that was kind of my connection is
Wow.
so soccer helped me get down here, and my connection with Salem, or my feeling about Salem, was I wanted to invest in a city that was growing. I wanted to invest in a city that I could understand. I didn't really understand Portland and how it worked, and I still don't.
Got it.
It
yeah.
just, from a real estate stance, a lot of things don't make sense to me. But down here, it made sense, and the numbers really made sense back then, at least in residential. And so I spoke with James, and I said, hey, I've got these metrics, these numbers. Can I invest here? And he's like, yes, you can.
Wow.
And I was like, okay, great. I was like, describe Salem to me, in one sentence. And James looks at me, he gets this. And if you know James, he's just got this wry smile, and he's like, Salem is the gateway to Oregon.
That's beautiful, actually.
And I was like, oh, I guess it is. He's like, yeah, you
Uh-huh.
can go to the coast. You can go to Central Oregon.
Yep.
You can go to Portland. You can go to Southern Oregon.
Yep.
And I was like,
Yeah.
and I was like, I'm sold. I was
Absolutely.
like, I'm gonna
The
go down here.
mountains,
Yeah.
yeah.
You have the whole 9 yards, right? So I was like, I love it, and it's obviously the capital,
Yeah.
right? So you have all these lawmakers down here, and and you have a lot of stability in terms of jobs in the economy. And I was like, that makes sense. Let's go.
Yeah.
So back to your question about the building. I was in apartments at this point in time. I had started in residential. I had kind of 1031'd up into, which is a real estate term for trading up into a higher asset class, into apartment buildings. But then COVID happened, and I remember I had a 16-plex off of Clearview, which is in Kaiser, and I had 8 of those tenants weren't paying me rent.
Oh my god.
And I was just like,
I remember those
it was
days.
just brutal. Yeah, it was absolutely brutal. So I and that was, it was a really hard time for myself as an investor, and my relations with my tenants.
Yeah.
And I was like, I would love to find something different, a new project. So along comes AJ, whispers in my ear that this is a possibility.
Yeah.
And so we made it happen, and I wish I could say that it was my idea, the building, but the former owner's name is Mike Tevis. He was a professional football player in the NFL, went to Stanford, and I got to work with him a little bit on the transaction. And he kind of gave me the rundown on why he got in that building, and it was basically like less risk. He said, you can own a 70,000 square foot building and have one tenant,
Right.
but if they go bankrupt, they walk out and they give you the keys, you're in trouble.
Yes.
Or you could own a building that have 70 different tenants, right? And you have a little bit less risk.
Yes. Yeah.
And I was like, oh, light bulb. That makes a lot of sense. So he sold me the building. I closed on it in January of 2022, and he had a few unfinished projects in the building that I finished. And I had a vision that was different from his. He had not invested a lot in what the building looked like or marketing. He didn't have a Instagram profile. He had a Facebook one, didn't have a website. So I invested in all those things because I found a ton of value in that.
Right. Yeah.
And then I invested in, I made a huge exterior facade remodel, added some awnings, did some painting, added some signage. And I wanted to turn it into, something that looked a lot nicer than what it did. And it gave me the opportunity to work with a lot of great contractors in town and learn a little bit more about, who was moving and shaking in the commercial real estate contracting. So it was a good lesson. That's how I got into that building, and I didn't know how unique it was, probably until maybe a year in of ownership, when I was like, oh, most buildings aren't like this, right? Like most challenges I have are not like this. It's just different when you have small businesses, and you have, it's just there's more to do. It's definitely its own ecosystem,
right?
And it's not like just having Target in your building, right? Where they do everything. It's like there's a lot of service-oriented things we have to do as an operation, which is important to make sure the tenants are feeling safe and taken care of.
Right. And since it was so unlike, the apartment buildings you'd had before and everything, what was one of the bigger learning curves, I guess, and how did you overcome that?
Yeah. Well, there's the triple nets, the common area maintenance items that, like, when in residential you don't have that. You don't have like that kind of an expense that's paid by the tenants. So in commercial, when you have a triple net building, the tenants pay for your taxes, your insurance, and all your utilities and common area maintenance. Oh. So it's a different structure. So they may be paying $1.20 a square foot in base rent, but they also have another, let's say, 40 cents a square foot for their extras, they're
Got
triple
it.
nets, right? So
Yeah.
it was like this new like math equation, and just trying to figure all that out, and then you have your your square footage in per each suite, and you have like a usable, a rentable, and I don't want to get in the weeds, but
Yeah.
it was that was a big learning curve
Yeah.
for me, and then I think just realizing that it wasn't something I could just set it and forget it. It was like I had to be there.
Yeah.
And AJ even said when he sold me the building, he said what the building really needs is an active owner. I took that to
Got
heart.
it.
I
Yeah.
wanted to be on the ground. I wanted to let the tenants know that I was in charge and
Right.
helping to solve problems. And it wasn't the former owner was in California and he wasn't around a lot, so I wanted to be
Got it.
there. And just I feel like it helps business when you are on the ground and you're seeing the challenges and dealing with those challenges that come up.
Yeah.
So
Exactly.
and I have the train
Will
problem.
our audio
Yep.
be okay with that? I was like, oh, the little traffic.
I have that same problem over at 45th Parallel. We're right by the tracks.
That's
yeah.
true.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
always a train coming
I've gotten
by.
caught one time for 30 minutes trying to get my hair lady.
Oh yeah,
She didn't cancel me though.
that's good. Who's your hair lady?
So she ended up buying her own salon next
Okay.
to Target, but
Okay.
actually Katrina,
Okay.
her
yeah.
husband is Tony that has the barbershop Cortado.
Oh, Katrina. Oh,
So
yes.
my Katrina, that's her
Oh,
husband.
yeah. Okay.
Or he works there. I don't know if he's the
Thought it-
owner.
Katrina. No.
Yeah.
Pierce is the owner, but.
Okay, so he is a barber in there.
Yeah.
then.
Okay, I didn't know
Funny,
that
yeah.
because she actually when I posted the job for my operations manager, I think she applied.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's interesting. Small world.
Yeah.
Salem's so small.
I know. So funny. Okay, but I did have a really good question in the train.
The train just derailed us,
Yeah.
so to speak. Sorry, Jesse,
oh.
pun intended.
I think a good one might be about the transition and from sports to business.
Yeah.
Maybe like one of the things that you learned in sports that you want.
Translate
Mhm.
over. Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
That's a good question.
All right, let's do it. Let's see what we're doing on time. Okay, yeah, that'll be perfect. That, and then I can ask maybe a little more about what you offer. I mean, I spent some time on your website, but just like have you tell people like what you offer and.
Yeah. Be sure to ask about the forge too.
Oh yeah.
Yes.
Okay. All
Yes.
right.
If you could recommend like your oils.
Any what?
Uh-huh.
And it was like the Zoom interviews, right? And they were like desperate for content because nobody was going to games and all this stuff. And I sat down with, not sat down, I had a Zoom interview with AD Franch, who was the goalkeeper. And went through this like amazing interview, and she was like, said so many good stories, and like, and just like we had so many laughs, and we're like, we're connecting.
You
It was
could
just like,
never redo it.
and then I had forgotten to hit record.
Oh no. Oh, we did that with Kara's first one actually for this.
Oh no!
Growing pains.
I know, right? It happens.
Oh,
Sorry.
that's
So I get it. All good.
Aw.
All right. So yeah, I'll start from scratch in the forge.
Yes.
So I had connected with a man named Chris Blackburn
Yep.
through AJ, and had some interactions with him. And Chris is, I feel like he's got a hand in everything. And he's
Yeah.
he's
Yeah.
got all these businesses.
Yeah.
He's a real estate developer and investor. He's always got great ideas and great takes, especially on AI. That's like his thing.
Right.
And he runs Clutch Industries. So I had connected with him a few times before this, but he invited me to an investor get together, and they had pitched the Forge building.
Yeah.
And so I, was there, with the mindset of, okay, like maybe I can learn something from Chris and his team, and also maybe I can invest in Salem,
Yeah.
and continue to be a part of what I think is a really successful story, which is Salem. And I already have this big investment at the 45th Parallel. So
Yes.
it kind of just aligned with a lot of the things that I'm passionate about.
Yeah.
So I decided to be an investor with this project called The Forge, which is the former Liberty Plaza building in downtown off Chemeketa and Liberty.
Uh-huh.
And I have seen just like COVID really take a toll on a lot of downtowns, and I felt like
Yeah.
being a part of a group that was bringing it back up, and a group that had so much experience like Clutch does, and they've got just a really good team. I thought, wow, I'd love to be a part of this. So,
Yes.
so they brought me in as an investor, and about 6 months later, they gave me a call and they were like, hey, we would love some help on a few challenges we're having. Would you like to be involved, like as a consultant? And I said, heck yeah,
Wow.
that sounds fun.
So
I would love to
cool.
do that.
Yeah.
So I came on as a consultant for the project.
Yeah.
And it's been a blast.
Wow.
I've been able to integrate with the team. I've been able to be a part of a lot of the projects within the building,
Yep.
and there are some amazing things happening at this building.
Wow.
I can't wait to tell you.
I'm excited to hear.
Oh man, it's going to be so much fun. I think
Yeah.
it's going to be. I'm hoping it's going to be a catalyst for some change in downtown Salem.
Wow.
Because we have 70,000 square feet of. We're calling it a lifestyle collective.
Ooh.
Because every floor offers a different experience.
Oh my gosh.
And you have financial services on the third floor,
Okay.
which is the business is called Anthem, and they were the first tenant to move in. They've taken the whole third floor. Right?
Wow.
So you can go there,
Yep.
if you need any kind of financial services. The second floor is a women's collective.
Okay.
So female-owned businesses, 23 of them.
Wow.
And we're curating the uses so that we don't have a bunch of the same uses. We want to have different uses.
Oh, very nice. Yeah.
For like lashes and skincare and salon, and it's anchored by a restaurant called The Clink,
Ooh. Okay.
which is being this is owned and operated by Sheena Nash, which is AJ's wife.
Oh my gosh! Wow.
And there's some really exciting things happening
Oh
in
my
there.
gosh.
I can't wait till they reveal some of the construction pictures. It's going to be incredible. It's going to be a Parisian restaurant, and they're going to have a little event space on their floor, which is going to be cool. So I think that's going to add a lot to that whole floor.
Yeah.
It's going to have just such a cool dynamic, and it's similar to what we have at the 45th Parallel, but different in that it's female owned
Right.
Businesses only.
Right. Yeah.
So that's really going to be fun. And then on the first floor, we've got a lot of different retail uses. We're in talks with a restaurant I think Salem's really going to be excited about. That I can't wait to try out their food. I can only say it's Asian food.
Okay.
And
All
I
right.
think it's going to be a big hit, assuming it all goes to
Goes
plan.
through. Okay.
And then we have we're going to have ice cream.
Uh-huh.
We're going to have coffee and boba tea as well. So we
Can't
have
go
some
wrong
really
with any of that.
that first floor is going to be really exciting and dynamic, and we're working on a couple other fun things I think that Salem will appreciate for that floor. So we've gone 3, 2, 1,
Gosh, wow.
and then basement is going to
Yeah.
be an event space
Uh-huh.
with where you have the second floor being more female oriented. I think
Yep.
the basement's going to be more directed towards the male side of the population. It's going to be a lounge for members only. We're also going to have this event space that's going to be fairly decent size.
Yeah. Oh, that's
And so,
amazing.
yeah, and so I
So cool.
and I own and operate an event space now.
Yeah.
And so I'm excited to see what we can do here with this
Yes.
event space, because I think having a downtown event space that has the right finishes
Yeah.
and has the right team is going to be
Oh,
very successful in Salem.
That is amazing. That's
Yeah,
exciting.
I
You
know.
the scoop
Oh,
around
I
here.
know. I'm like getting goosebumps just talking about
That
it.
is
But yeah,
exciting. All right.
I'm super excited about what's happening there,
Yeah.
and by the time we hit fall, we're going to see there's going to be a lot of changes and a lot of things happening in that
That's
building.
exciting.
Yeah.
Yeah. We're probably going to see a lot of it on the Salem Business Journal's
Yes.
news website and podcast.
Feel
and
free to come on over
This is
and-
the place.
yeah.
See, we know the people.
Yeah, we do. Yeah, we do know the people.
Wow. Well,
Yeah.
thank you for all your hard work on that.
Oh, I mean,
and
my
just
pleasure.
dedication to Salem, because that's so exciting
Yeah,
and
I feel
inspiring.
fortunate to have connected with people down in Salem.
Yeah.
And I mean, shout out to my friend Conrad Venti, who was like my first banking relationship here. He works with Josh Kay over at First Commercial, and like people like Conrad and James Haig and AJ. If you don't have those connections, right? Those good people that you start with, you don't get your footholds, right? But it's folks like that who can really drive your interest and your energy and help you as you're kind of getting started out. So grateful for that.
Yeah, exactly. Real quick before I ask him this last question, can you message our 3:30? Can you just email him from the calendar invite and tell him we might be a couple minutes late to hop on? Thank you.
Man,
Sorry to break that.
Yeah.
No. I love it. I don't want it to end. Okay. Oh yeah. So I'll just kind of ask a little bit about just being an athlete and how that kind of carried through into what you do now. So
For sure.
So you have you are an athlete, but of course you had the career in the MLS. But what are some of the the qualities and the lessons and the attributes of being an athlete? How have those played out into your career now and your businesses now?
That's like a good question because when you're an athlete, it's really easy to have a goal.
Yeah.
And it's you have the competitive fire that you need to show up every day, but you learn along the way that you get kind of off track when you're headed towards the goal. Like it's like you're trying to get from A to Z, but like A to B might be like backwards, right? C might be like way over here, and like you realize that like it's more about the process than it is necessarily about the goal. And so in going through everything I've gone through as a professional athlete, from my early days in Colorado as a rookie, to playing professionally in Norway, to Salt Lake and Portland, you have all these like moves, but like for me, it was always about winning a championship. And so like that was like the ultimate goal, and it was like I wanted to do that from the very minute I turned pro, and I was always asking myself, how do I do that?
Yeah.
And the answer came to me later in my career. It was just about, okay, how do I fit in with the team, and how do I make the team better by just being me? And so I always ask myself that now when I'm with my team and when I'm trying to move that ball forward, because we always have a ball pushing forward, right?
Yeah.
Towards a goal. It's like, okay, how do I step back and help the process, right? By either thinking or by talking with my team, so that we can get to that championship. And championships are different now in real estate, right? It's buying and renovating a property. It's selling a property.
Right.
Maybe it's getting a lease signed by a big tenant. And you have to celebrate all those things.
Yeah.
But it comes down to like where you fit in with your team. And I just try to lead as much by example as I do, in the trenches. And that's just what I did as a professional athlete. And it wasn't, and I'm, like I said, wasn't the most talented guy on the field, but I was always willing to just keep going and be relentless with, my process of waking up early and doing all the right things and eating well and treating my body right and getting all the right rest. And you still have to do that, as a business person today. So it's still very, very important. So that's how the mentality I have now, and I think it's served me very, very, very well.
Yeah, exactly. I love that. I love just feeling inspired by that. I know that there are listeners that are listening to this, to you on purpose, wanting to learn something from you because you are where so many people want to be, including myself. So that's just very inspiring.
Thank you.
And so, well, before we wrap up, I would just love for you to share how can people follow you and get a hold of you and check out more about your company.
Yes, thank you. So you can follow me at my social media handles at Nat Borchers, Instagram and Facebook, and gosh, am I anywhere else? I think that's it for socials. We've got I would love for people to follow our Space 45th Instagram profile to see what we're doing in our event space. And you can follow us also at 45th Parallel Building.
Yes.
Is at 45th Parallel Building.
Yeah. Awesome. Well,
Great.
Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you,
It was
Jordan.
so much fun, and I
It was
hope
a
to talk
pleasure.
to you soon.
Thank you so much.
All right. And thank you so much, Clutch Industries and Saltwater Wellness, for sponsoring this episode.